Hey there, pilots. This is Dauntless Sam, and today we'll be looking at the history of the Grumman F6F Hellcat and its flight characteristics in War Thunder. The Grumman F6F Hellcat was a carrier-based fighter aircraft conceived to replace the earlier F4F Wildcat in the United States Navy service. The Hellcat has an erstwhile rival of the faster Vought F4U Corsair for use as a carrier-based aircraft. However, the Corsair had significant issues with carrier landings that the Hellcat did not, allowing the Hellcat to steal a march as the Navy's dominant fighter in the second part of World War II, a position the Hellcat did not relinquish. The Corsair instead was primarily deployed to great effect in land-based use by the United States Marine Corps. Although the F6F resembled the Wildcat, it was a completely new design, powered by a 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R2800, the same power plant used for both the Corsair and the United States Army Air Force's Republic P-46 Thunderbolt fighters. Some military observers tagged the Hellcat as the Wildcat's big brother. The F6F was best known for its role as a rugged, well-designed carrier fighter, which was able, after its combat debut in early 1943, to counter the Mitsubishi A6M0 and help secure air superiority over the Pacific theater. Such was the quality of the basic, simple, straightforward design that the Hellcat was the least modified fighter of the war, with a total of 12,200 being built in just over 2 years. Hellcats were credited with destroying 5,223 aircraft while in service with the United States Navy, the United States Marine Corps, and the Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm. This was more than any other Allied naval aircraft. Post-war, the Hellcat was phased out of frontline service, but remained in service as late as 1954 as a night fighter. Grumman had been working on a successor for the F4F Wildcat since 1938, and the contract for the prototype XF6F1 was signed on June 30th of 1941. The aircraft was designed to use the Wright R2600 twin cyclone 2-row 14-cylinder radial engine of 1,700 horsepower, driving a 3-bladed Curtiss electric propeller. Instead of the Wildcat's narrow track, hand-cranked landing gear retracting into the fuselage, the Wildcat had a wide-set, hydraulically actuated landing gear struts which rotated 90 degrees while retracting backwards and into the wings, much like that of the earlier Chance Vought F4U Corsair. The wing was mounted lower on the fuselage and was able to be hydraulically folded or manually folded, with each panel outboard of the undercarriage bay folding backwards from pivoting on a specially oriented, Grumman patented diagonal axis pivoting system much like the earlier F4F, with a folded stowage position parallel to the fuselage with the leading edges pointing down. Throughout early 1942, Roy Grumman, along with his chief designers Jake Swerble and Bill Swindler, worked closely with the United States Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics and experienced F4F pilots to develop the new fighter in such a way that it could counter the Zero's strengths and help gain air command in the Pacific Theater of Operations. On April 22, 1942, Lieutenant Commander Butch O'Hare toured the Grumman aircraft factory and spoke with Grumman engineers analyzing the performance of the F4F Wildcat against the Mitsubishi A6M0 in aerial combat. The Bureau of Aeronautics directed Grumman's designers to mount the cockpit higher in the fuselage. In addition, the forward fuselage sloped down slightly to the engine cowling, affording the Hellcat's pilot good visibility. Based on combat accounts of encounters between F4F Wildcat and A6M0 on April 26, 1942, the Bureau of Aeronautics directed Grumman to install the more powerful 18-cylinder Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp radial engine in the second XF6F1 prototype. Grumman complied by redesigning and strengthening the F6F airframe to incorporate the 2,000 horsepower engine. With this combination, Grumman estimated the XF6F3's performance would increase by 25% over that of the XF6F1. The cyclone-powered XF6F1 first flew on June 26th of 1924. followed by the first double Wasp-equipped aircraft, the XF6F3, which first flew on July 30th of 1942. The first production F6F3, powered by an R2810, flew on October 3rd, 1942, with the type reaching operational readiness with VF9 on the USS Essex in February of 1943. The F6F series were designed to take damage and get the pilot safely back to base. A bullet-resistant windshield and a total of 212 pounds of cockpit armor was fitted, along with armor around the oil tank and oil cooler. A 250-gallon self-sealing fuel tank was fitted in the fuselage. Standard armament of the F6F3 consisted of 6 50-caliber M2AN Browning air-cooled machine guns with 400 rounds per gun. A center section hardpoint under the fuselage could carry a single 150-gallon disposable drop tank, while later aircraft had single bomb racks installed under each wing, inboard of the undercarriage bays. With these and the center section hardpoint, late model F6F3s could carry a total bomb load in excess of 2,000 pounds. 6 5-inch high-velocity aircraft rockets could be carried, 3 under each wing, on zero-length launchers. 2 night fighter subvariants of the F6F3 were developed. The 18 F6F3Es were converted from standard 3s and featured the AN APS-4 radar in a pod mounted on a rack beneath the right wing, with a small radar scope fitted to the middle of the main instrument panel and radar operating controls installed in the port side of the cockpit. The later F6F3N, first flown in July of 1943, was fitted with the AN APS-6 radar in the fuselage, with the antenna dish in a bulbous fairing mounted on the leading edge of the outer right wing. Approximately 200 F6F3Ns were built. Hellcat night fighters claimed their first victories in November of 1943. A total of 4,402 F6F3s were built through until April of 1944, when production was changed to the F6F5. The F6F5 featured several improvements, including a more powerful R2800 10W engine, embodying a water injection system and housed in slightly more streamlined engine cowling, spring-loaded control tabs on the ailerons, and an improved clear-view windscreen with a flat, armored glass front panel replacing the F6F3's curved plexiglass panel and internal armor glass screen. In addition, the rear fuselage and the tail units were strengthened, and apart from some early production aircraft, the majority of the F6F5s built were painted in an overall gloss sea blue finish. After the first few F6F5s were built, the small windows behind the main canopy were deleted. The F6F5N night fighter variant was fitted with an AN APS-6 radar in a fairing on the outer starboard wing. A small number of standard F6F5s were also fitted with camera equipment for reconnaissance duties as the F6F5P. While all F6F5s were capable of carrying an armament mix of one 20mm M2 cannon in each of the inboard gun bays, along with 2 pairs of 50 caliber machine guns, this configuration was only used on the later F6F5N night fighters. The F6F5 was the most common F6F variant, with 7,870 being built. Other prototypes in the F6F series included the XF6F4, which first flew on October 3rd of 1942 as the prototype for the projected F6F4. This version never entered production, and the prototype was converted to an F6F3 production aircraft. Another experimental prototype was the XF6F2, an F6F3 converted to use the Wright R2615, fitted with a Berman manufactured mixed-flow turbocharger, which was later replaced by a Pratt & Whitney R2821, also fitted with a Berman turbocharger. The turbochargers proved to be unreliable on both engines. while performance improvements were marginal. As with the XF6F4, the prototype was soon converted back to the standard F6F3. Two XF6F6s were converted from F6F5s and used the 18-cylinder, 21-horsepower Pratt & Whitney R2800 18W two-stage supercharged radial engine with water injection and driving a Hamilton standard four-bladed propeller. The XF6F6s were the fastest version of the Hellcat series with a top speed of 417 miles per hour. But the war ended before this variant could be mass-produced. The last Hellcat rolled out in November 1945, the total production being 12,275, of which 11,000 had been built in just 2 years. The high production rate was credited to the sound original design, which required little modification once production was underway. The U.S. Navy much preferred the more docile flight characteristics of the F6F compared to the Vought F4U Corsair, despite the superior speed of the Corsair. This preference was especially noted during carrier landings, a critical success requirement for the Navy, in which the Corsair was fundamentally flawed in comparison. The Corsair was thus released by the Navy to the Marine Corps, who, without the need to worry about carrier landings, used the Corsair to immense effect in land-based sorties. The Hellcat remained the standard USN carrier-borne fighter until the F4U series was finally cleared for U.S. carrier operations in late 1944. In addition to its good flight qualities, the Hellcat was easy to maintain and had an airframe tough enough to withstand the rigors of routine carrier operations. Like the Wildcat, the Hellcat was designed for ease of manufacture and ability to withstand significant damage. The Hellcat first saw action against the Japanese on September 1, 1943, when fighters off the USS Independence shot down a Kawanishi H-8K Emily flying boat. Soon after, on the 23rd and 24th of November, Hellcats engaged Japanese aircraft over Tarwana, shooting down a claimed 30 Mitsubishi Zeros for the loss of one F6F. Over Rabaul, New Britain, on the 11th of November 1943, Hellcats and F4U Corsairs were engaged in day-long fights with many Japanese aircraft, including A6M Zeros, claiming nearly 50 aircraft. When trials were flown against a captured Zero Type 52, they showed the Hellcat was faster at all altitudes. The F6F outclimbed the Zero marginally above 14,000 feet and rolled faster at speeds above 235 miles an hour. The Japanese fighter could outturn its American opponent with ease at low speeds and enjoyed a slightly better rate of climb below 14,000 feet. The trial reports concluded, "Do not dogfight with a 052. Do not try and follow a loop or half roll with a pull-through. When attacking, use your superior power and high-speed performance to engage at the most favorable moment. To evade a 052 on your tail, roll and dive away into a high-speed turn." Hellcats were the major U.S. Navy fighter type involving the Battle of the Philippine Sea, where so many Japanese aircraft were shot down that Navy aircrews nicknamed the battle the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. The F6F accounted for 75% of all aerial victories recorded by the United States Navy in the Pacific. Radar-equipped Hellcat night fighter squadrons appeared in early 1944. United States Navy and Marine F6F pilots flew 66,530 combat sorties and claimed 5,163 kills, 56% of all United States Navy and Marine air victories of the war, at a recorded cost of 270 Hellcats in aerial combat. An overall kill-to-loss ratio of 19-1 based on claimed but not confirmed kills. The aircraft performed well against the best Japanese opponents, with a claimed 13-1 kill ratio against the A6M Zero, 9.5-1 against the Nakajima Ki-84, and 3.7-1 against the Mitsubishi J2M during the last year of the war. The F6F became the prime ace-maker aircraft in the American inventory. with 305 Hellcat aces. The U.S. successes were not only attributed to superior aircraft, but also from 1942 onwards, they faced increasingly inexperienced Japanese aviators, as well as having the advantage of increasing numerical superiority. In the ground attack role, Hellcats dropped 6,503 tons of bombs. The U.S. Navy's all-time leading ace, Captain David McCampbell, scored all his 34 victories in the Hellcat. He once described the F6F as an outstanding fighter plane. It performed well, was easy to fly, and was a stable gun platform. But what I really remember most was that it was rugged and easy to maintain. During the course of World War II, 2,462 F6F Hellcats were lost to all causes, 270 in aerial combat, 553 lost to anti-aircraft ground and shipboard fire, and 341 were lost to operational causes. Of the total figure, 1,298 were destroyed in training and ferry operations, normally outside of the combat zones. The British Fleet Air Arm received 1,263 F6Fs under the Lend-Lease Act. Initially, it was known as the Grumman F6F Mark I. The name Hellcat replaced it in early 1943 for the sake of simplicity, the Royal Navy at the time adopting the use of the existing American naval names for all of the United States-made aircraft supplied to it, with the F6F3 being designated Hellcat F Mark I, the F6F5 the Hellcat F Mark II, and the F6F5N the Hellcat NF Mark II. They saw action off Norway, in the Mediterranean Sea, and in the Far East. A number were fitted with photographic reconnaissance equipment similar to the F6F5P, receiving the designation Hellcat FR Mark II. The Pacific War being a naval war, the FAA Hellcats primarily faced land-based aircraft in the European and Mediterranean theaters, and as a consequence, experienced far fewer opportunities for air-to-air combat than their United States Navy and Marine counterparts. They claimed a total of 52 enemy aircraft kills during 18 aerial combats from May 1944 to July 1945. FAA Hellcats, as with other Lend-Lease aircraft, were rapidly replaced by British aircraft after the end of the war, with only 2 of the 12 squadrons equipped with the Hellcat at VJ Day still retaining Hellcats by the end of 1945. These 2 squadrons were disbanded in 1946. Post-war, the Hellcat was succeeded by the F-8F Bearcat, which was smaller, more powerful, and more maneuverable, but entered service too late to see combat in World War II. The Hellcat was used for second-line United States Navy duties, including training. In late 1952, Guided Missile Unit 90 used F-6F 5K drones, each carrying a 2,000-pound bomb to attack bridges in Korea, flying from a USS Boxer, radio-controlled from an escorting AD Skyraider. In War Thunder, there's one version of the Hellcat. The F6F3 is a Rank 2 aircraft with a battle rating of 2.7. It has a maximum speed of 584 km per hour, a turn time of 23.3 seconds, and a rate of climb of 7.1 meters per second, and has a primary armament of 6 50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns with 2,400 rounds. It can be loaded with either 6 127mm rockets and or 2 1,000-pound bombs. The Hellcat is a very potent fighter with good turn time for an American fighter. It is important to use boom and zoom tactics as the aircraft has very good energy retention characteristics, though you may need to make multiple passes at a fighter because of the lack of stopping power of the 50 caliber machine guns. If you need to, the Wildcat's maneuverability can get you out of trouble when up against German and Russian aircraft. I hope that this information has proved helpful. If you liked the video, please do like the video. If you would like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and if you think anyone else would be interested in this video, don't be afraid to share it. This is Dauntless Sam. Thanks for watching.